Now I would like to introduce our first partner presentation. Dr. Belinda Clarke is a director of AgriTech E and joining us virtually from Cambridge today. AgriTech E signed an MOU with the WGA last quarter to collaborate on AgTech generally and this initiative specifically. WGA collaborations with global partners like AgriTech E will help ensure that startups in all regions have easier access to other markets for field tests and starting to scale beyond their initial geography. Belinda, thank you for joining us and giving us an overview of AgriTech E and the importance of our partnership and this initiative.
Thank you so much, Walt, and good morning, everybody. I very much wish I was with you in person over there today. It's a rather dull, miserable evening in Cambridgeshire in the Fens in the UK. Highly productive agricultural land, lots of vegetable production, lots of arable production, but we're not going to have tacos at lunchtime. And I wish I was there to hear your stories, to learn about your experiences, and to share some of ours. However, through the power of technology, what I'd like to do is to give you a little introduction to AgriTech E, to explain why we're very excited to be partnering with the Western Growers Association in this important initiative. And then I'd like to introduce you to some of the robotics capabilities in the UK, some of it quite early stage and at the research end, some of it closer to market, to just give you a little flavour, by no means comprehensive, but just a little flavour and interest about what we have in the UK. So if I may have my first slide, please move on. Okay, so what I'd like to do is just introduce AgriTech E. So we are a membership organisation, we're independent, we're not funded by government. And what we're about really is catalysing this multidisciplinary approach to just moving the needle around agri-tech. So we know that chemistry and breeding and machinery are going to be crucial to the future of the industry, but also we want to bring in technologies and expertise from other sectors, from earth observation, from artificial intelligence, from machine learning, and really providing a welcoming place for these new sectors, new experience to come in to the industry and to contribute to a tech stack. So we're independent, we have an ambition to be this global catalyst for open innovation. I won't read all the list there, you can see our ambition and what we do, and this whole piece about multidisciplinarity I hope will come out through my talk. So if I might have the next slide, please. So this shows a very rudimentary, if I could ask one click, please, thank you. This shows a very rudimentary value chain, and we could argue for the rest of the afternoon, I'm sure, about the lack of linearity and the way the value chain works. But if I could ask just to run the animation to just show you an example of some of the members that we have in our network around each of those different places on the value chain. And I illustrate this, as I say, it's not comprehensive, but to demonstrate the kind of innovation ecosystem that we've pulled together, and the two cohorts that I'd particularly like to draw your attention to, as well as the farmers and growers up there above producers, and the top left-hand side, the research. So that fundamental and discovery moving through to the applied on-farm research. That's really the engine, the engine of the innovation that is leading to inspiring some of the startups. And I know there's some startups here who have spun out from the research base in the UK who are at the event this morning, I'm afraid. The other group I'd like to draw your attention to is the bottom right-hand side under the sort of networks and funders and enablers. And among those is the UK's innovation agency, Innovate UK, who are members of ours. And they, in the last couple of days, have announced a £12 million fund to help facilitate academic and industry collaboration to accelerate new technologies to help transform the food system. So that's just a little flavour of the kind of membership we have. Now, the next slide shows just some examples of the sorts of things we do. We run events, which are, of course, online now, so you're all very welcome to join. You don't have to be a member to join, but you will have to pay if you're not a member. So really just taking a dive into all these different topics. You can see up there one example that might be of interest to this audience is swarm robotics. So we looked at how you could actually link the robots together in a kind of master-slave relationship so that you can actually increase efficiency. So just taking a dive into those topics and bringing together the farmers and growers. And the next slide just reminds us all that actually geography is no limit to being involved. We write reports from all our events, and our members have access to all the outputs and reports from all the events that we run. Now, one program that we do is illustrated on our next slide, is a program called AgriTech Week. And this is an initiative that we run in the autumn, in November, in the UK, to try and just celebrate the excellence and the vibrancy of the AgriTech community in the UK. And this is just an example of some of the events we had during AgriTech Week 2020. Obviously, they were all digital, but you can see a kind of smorgasbord of topics and ideas which hopefully will resonate with both the farmers and the researchers and technology developers. Now, in the middle of AgriTech Week, we have our REAP conference, and the next slide shows the logo, hopefully gives you an indication of the topic that we were looking at, which is how you can connect up what's happening in a micro level, either microbial activity in the soil or even the molecular things that are going on in plants, and how that moves up through all the tiers of the farm system, through the field, the farm, the catchment area, and how the technology can enable one to move up and down those different layers of the agri-food system. And it was at REAP, we were very proud to announce the relationship with the Western Growers Association. And then a couple of weeks later, you can see there on the slide that Walt and Dennis and my colleague Alex Dinsdale and I signed the piece of paper to really cement the relationship. And building on that, we held an event a couple of weeks ago, which showcased some of your fantastic growers over there in the Western Growers Association, and really articulating very elegantly some of the challenges that you face in terms of the automated harvest and the kind of wish list that you have, that then the technology companies in the UK then really got that first-hand insight into what the challenges are and what you're looking at, the solutions that you're looking for. So let's talk a little bit about some of the technology. Let me introduce you to some of the robotics expertise in the UK. So the next slide introduces you to a program that was really developed as a demonstrator. If you could just run all the slides, all the animations on that slide, please, that'd be helpful. And this is called the Hands-Free Hectare. Now, this slide is a little bit old because they have now built that into the Hands-Free Farm. And this started at Harper Adams University, which is one of the leading agricultural focused universities in the UK. And the ambition, as you can see from the slide, was to grow a field of wheat that had no human intervention in there at all, from drilling to harvest. And you can see, again, these data are a little bit old. You can see the yields were actually pretty respectable. And now the idea is to tech up a whole farm so that we have this autonomous approach to demonstrate what is feasible and possible. And you can see the machine there is not state of the art, but it's loaded up with some of the state of the art technologies to be able to demonstrate the feasibility of this project. So the next slide moves us on into harvesting. So if we can run all the images on that slide. So first of all, to introduce you to the University of Cambridge, and the Department for Engineering has been working very closely with one of the UK's major salad producers, Gee's, and they've been looking at automated lettuce harvesting. So you can see some of the images there about that, but the department is also looking at soft robotics. So it's not just emulating the existing maneuvers that a human hand would do, but it's also looking at alternatives. Could we, as some of your growers said at our event a couple of weeks ago, really just change the way we even think about growing and harvesting these crops? It doesn't have to be based on the system that we know, because we have human hands to do what they do. And then in the top right-hand corner, introduce you to dog-tooth robotics, which I think is known to some people in the Western Growers Association. That picture was taken at our REAP conference a few years ago, and the robot actually rather spectacularly came into the conference lecture theatre and trundled down the stairs to the stage and took a bow on the stage. And that's now really, it's out on farms, strawberry farms. And then the other image is from University of Essex, who are working with Tiptree, which is one of the major producers of jams and preserves. So they have a huge interest in efficient soft fruit harvesting, and I'll show you a video on that in a moment. So let's go outside into the field with the next slide, please. And I'd like to take you to the University of Lincoln, which is fast establishing a leading reputation in agricultural robotics. The British government has actually given a very significant investment to the Lincoln Institute of Agricultural Technologies around training, around PhD opportunities, to both develop the research skills, but also to develop the technologies around agricultural robotics. And you can see here some technology that's being developed around automated broccoli harvesting, using the machine learning and the AI and the visualization to be able to ascertain when the broccoli head is at the right stage for harvest and passing over those that are little immature, thus reducing wastage. So this is all nice having these pictures. Let's have a look at them in real life. So I think my next slide has a video on it. So if I can ask if we could move on to the next slide and play the video, please. So this video shows some examples of the kinds of technologies that are now being used out in the field, not just to actually manipulate and harvest the crop, but also to act as a bit of a kind of workhorse, if you like, to be able to move product around. You can see there the University of Essex robotic strawberry harvesting. This is the hands-free Hector on its maiden voyage at the UK's leading arable trade show. I hope I don't need to point out that the video has been speeded up. It's not quite that efficient. It is efficient, but not that efficient. And then there's just some examples that the video will run through of field phenotyping, of monitoring, of being able to move product around, be able to, in an automated way, establish growth stages and report back and collect the data. So the other point to make is that certainly our fields outside at the moment are looking pretty rough. They're frozen solid and they're muddy, and it's a very challenging growing environment out there. I know you've had some challenging weather in California as well, but the ability for these robots to really work outside efficiently is something that people are working pretty hard on here in the UK. So if I could move to my next and penultimate slide, please. I just wanted to leave you with the reassurance that the UK government, not that I can speak on behalf of the UK government, absolutely not, we're not government funded, but we do work closely with colleagues in government. And this is a picture of an event that we hosted for our members at the House of Lords in London a couple of years ago. We launched a report about agricultural technologies. And the gentleman on the podium is George Freeman, who is an MP. And he was very involved in 2013 in the development and launch of a national strategy for agricultural technologies in the UK. And that had, I think it was £160 million of new funding to help with academic industry collaborations, with new collaborative R&D, with training. And we're now at the end of that initial cohort of the strategy, but it was deemed very successful. And we're now really reaping the benefits of that very enabling political environment in terms of both funding and skills development, and I should say regulation, which I don't have time to talk about here. The other picture, the gentleman in the picture with the river behind them, just to point out the man next to me, so there's George Freeman, then myself. The man next to me is Lord Sainsbury, who was a former Minister of Science in the UK Parliament. And the gentleman on the end next to him is John Shropshire, who is the Chief Executive of G's Fresh, who is, as I said, one of the largest salad producers in the UK. Very forward-thinking, very willing and keen to embrace technologies, I know, as are your growers. So if I could just move on to my final slide to leave you with our contact details. Please do get in touch with us. We have members all over the world, so we'd be delighted to talk to you. But more importantly, I think, to really just reinforce how pleased we are that we have this relationship with the Western Growers Association. Hearing Walt's introduction really just illustrated how we are seeing the same issues, the same challenges, the labour issue. We have didn't really want to say the B word, but I will say Brexit. The UK has left the EU, where a lot of the migrant labour came from, the seasonal labour for harvest. So this is a very live issue for us as well, and we very much look forward to working with you when it comes to finding some technological solutions. So the future is very exciting, and we look forward to being part of it with you. Thank you very much for your attention.
That's great. Thank you, Belinda. Some great UK perspective on this initiative.